My name is Alexander Campbell. I'm low-key somewhat, but engaging, fun. I believe in encouraging everybody. I like to see people do well, and it's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited. I'm psyched up. I can't wait to tell my friends and everybody that, hey, I'm on Tiffany's show. I'm good. Okay, I'm from DC. I come from military parents. Let's see. Pops was cool. Mother was truly awesome, beautiful lady. And growing up was cool, but it was challenging. Father had went to Vietnam. So that had as many challenges, especially when he came back. In the early years, because of what he went through in Vietnam, he was very abusive. So it kind of had a lot to do with my future, because the abuse was always physical, and it eventually came to head when I was like 13 years old, because I had already started down that path where violence spoke higher than anything else. And even though that's not true to my nature, because I'm low key, like I said, I enjoy people. I enjoy my own thoughts. I enjoy various things, reading, watching movies and stuff like that, even at that age. But due to the abuse, that kind of like turned me on to like, hey, nobody's going to bother me. If I get upset, somebody else is going to suffer just like I suffer. So, and like I said, when I was 13, we got into a tussle. We got to fighting, and I told him straight up, you need to go ahead and kill me, because I'm going to come kill you, because we're not going to do this no more. That's it. So you might as well go ahead and do what you need to do now. And not long after that, he's out. But, as, young men, we feel ourselves. So when it comes to a certain age point, we think we're grown, and we really are not. We're missing a whole lot of lessons. So even with the absence due to what Vietnam had done to him, the alcoholism and the other things that he suffered from, that it really had a drastic effect. And I didn't really have a whole lot of role models that I respected. It wasn't that some people didn't come, but you, as a young man, you have this image of who your father should be. And since I was becoming so rough and tumble, I would go to them more than I would see anybody else. So if dudes was into robbing, if dudes were into hustling, if dudes were into those things that were older than me, they caught my ear more so than people that was on a positive wavelength. So that was my childhood. Well, I had a couple of blessings, but I didn't pay the blessings any mind, because I played high school ball. I was good. No question about that. I was at Roosevelt. In the 11th grade, I was already honorable mention in regards to the McDonald's stuff. So I was nice. Anybody that researches the history knows that I was nice. But I stayed in so much trouble. Always fighting, always getting high, always chasing girls. Class was whenever I felt. I made my own schedule. I went Monday, Wednesday, on Friday 1 week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. The only time you really saw me in school was when it was basketball season. And that's before the grades had to switch up to 2.5. It wasn't that I was ignorant. It's just that I had no interest. One, I didn't want to go to Roosevelt. I wanted to go to Northwestern, because I knew the coach there, and that was the best coach. And then eventually, with me getting in all that trouble and things like that, junior year, got put off because of grades. Eventually found my way to Anacostia, and that was life-changing, because that was a better situation for me, because I was around me more. I was around And it's crazy because it was so much trouble. But I thrived more because I wanted to go to school. Yeah. Because I was quiet. I didn't have to be Alex anymore. I didn't have to throw my hands. I didn't have to act wild and crazy because I was living up to an image that was false. You know, a lot of us have masks. And so we didn't really, you know, we wanted to be proved that we were tough. And it's crazy. And I mean, Roosevelt out in Maryland anyway, Eleanor Roosevelt, not Theodore. So nobody get it twisted. You know how that go. Got to make sure people understand. And when I finally got put out of Roosevelt, everything's paused because I had gotten a fight and put somebody in a coma. And when everything paused, that was a reality check. But I ended up still getting stuff together somewhat. I went and got my GED. I went to a junior college out there in New Hampshire. Did pretty well, but that was a bad choice because I was trying to run from myself. So when we came back here, I did some positives because I joined the Nation of Islam. I was doing good, but again, streets called me by my first, middle, and last name. And I was more interested in that. And I had some beautiful brothers that were really trying to get me together. And got caught up with the petty hustles. Next thing I know, I wanted to be a big boy. And I got big boy time. You know, I wanted to be a hustler. Wasn't good at it. Really sucked. But my violent nature, you know, getting into fights and doing things like this and doing things like that, end up getting caught up, caught a murder degree, murder in the first, matter of fact, down in Virginia. And that was that was an awakening moment.
How did you feel after, you know, committing murder? What emotions were you feeling, if any? How did you feel about the family of the deceased? Just if you could go into how you were feeling all around when you went to court and you heard your sentence, like what was that like for you?
At first, because I was living up to that image, you know, nothing phases you. Because when you're in the street life, and then I was growing up in the 80s. You know, crack was strong, everything, you know, going to go-go's and fighting in DC, you know, that was the life. Loved it. I was just out of control. So, and because I embraced that lifestyle at that time with all the fighting and all of this and all of that, nothing was penetrating the fact that you did this. And, you know, and I look at that as pieces of my humanity being, you know, taken away. You know, with my self-destructive behavior and attitude, that's what it was. It was a stripping away of my humanity. And it in years to come, did I say to myself, okay, this is what you did. You got to make up for this. You can't bring a life back, no doubt. Yeah. But what you can do is help other people change their lives in time. You know, you got to make a turnaround, because if you don't, you're not going to leave prison. And it was a blessing, because I almost got stuck in prison because I was about to do something real heinous. When I first came in, I went back in regards to the nation, because that gave me stability. That gave me that place, that footing to stay positive and constantly work forward, you know, because it's a thing of upliftment. You know, brother, you made this, you didn't make a mistake, you erred. You willfully erred. So accept that. You know, this is on you. You can't say, you know, what your father did or what your mother didn't do or any of those things. You was a grown man when you did this act. So you know the difference between right and wrong, so man up. Yes, sir. That's it. And that was beneficial. But the problem is, not with the Nation of Islam on the outside, but every group, be it church, Christian, be it Moorish Science Temple, everything. In prison, you have a lot of that prison religion. So, and when you come from a real situation and you go in and you got all this prison stuff, rules change. You adjust to the logics of prison. And that hurt because there's so many outside forces within prison, and you think that there would be unity. And sometimes it's not. And those clashes, because I end up going to the hole because getting a fight with another group that wasn't under the minister, but under somebody else, where I got hit in the head with a weight. Yeah, somebody tried to take me out because I was the head of this group, as far as under the minister, as far as study guide coordinator, as far as that. And another dude said, well, they should have the Nation of Islam because the minister's not real. So, and when I got hit, you know, that put me in the hole, and there was a lot of transitions from there, because I was like, okay, we're going to come up out of this prison politics. Because that opened me up real good, and that was crazy.
So that was your turning point in prison?
That was my point. That was my point of saying, you know, I listened to the brother say, don't do that. That's your brother, and this and that and the other thing. But once I got hit and almost killed that way, then I said, okay, now I'm going back to that dude I was in the street. And I wish somebody else would, because now I'm going to be on the aggressive. I'm coming, you know, just like I was in the street, I'm coming. So there's nothing that anybody was going to do to me again. Because you become more savage while you're in that situation.
So you got out of the hole, and you was like monster, like.
No, I wasn't willy-nilly, because one thing, to be real with you, to be totally 100% real with you, a lot of dudes, when they come home, they want to swear that they was the baddest dude in prison. That's a lie. There's always somebody bigger or smaller, somebody always more than you are. It just so happened that because of what I went in for, that put me on the echelon of, you bother me, I'm gonna bother you. And we already know to the extent in which this thing can happen. So there's a mutual respect with dudes that had my type of cases, bank robbers, true hustlers, things like that. It's the people that don't have that time, that don't really understand what you're focused on. Leave me alone. And I'll never bother you. We'll be cool, we're all right, we're associates, blah, blah, blah. Because there's a different mindset and a different time, and nobody really wants to go down that avenue, because the reality is you want to come home from prison. You don't want to stay in prison and die.
Right.
So, and that just turned me more defensive. But I never acted like I was the toughest dude in there, because there's different results for that as well. I've seen dudes, you know, I'm 6'2", and at that time I'm 240. I know dudes that were 6'6".
Wow.
Big as all day long. Hand-wise, knife-wise, and things like that. But I also seen the biggest dude get chopped down by the dude that's 5'6" with the longest knife ever.
Right.
You know, so size didn't mean anything, because the short man was just as dangerous, if not more dangerous, because people would try to take advantage.
Yeah.
And I watch guys like that come with 5 years, end up with a life sentence. So you never think, you know, people with all this bravado, man, I was this, nothing, man, that's BS. So I didn't fall into that category. I fell into the category, just let me be. If you don't let me be, this is the road we're going to go down.
Got it. I mean, it makes sense. You know, you do have to develop some type of mindset to survive there. And, you know, people tend to be outside and judge, and you have no idea what it's like living in those conditions and for that long. And, you know, it's mind-boggling how people want to judge a situation that they couldn't last 2 days in. You know what I mean? So
that's true. But sometimes some of us, we need to be able to judge others, to say that, we better because they're lacking something.
right, exactly. That sit high and look low type of mindset.
Yeah, because we was like that in prison too. I mean, it's, we would say that, oh, okay. Like, for instance, in church, you would have more of your sex offenders. And they were sometimes in those positions in the church. And they would say, well, sin is a sin. And we're like, no, sir. We didn't harm women. We didn't harm children. We didn't do any of the things that you just did. Mm-hmm. So don't you put that, no, sir.
Don't you dare.
No question. Because when on our paper, it's not sex offender. We didn't do anything to anybody's babies. We didn't do anything to anybody's women. We didn't do any of that. So don't come at us with that. You know what I mean? So, and that's where, with me dealing with the brothers in the nation and stuff like that, I was at home because all of us we just walked down the same road. We weren't into any of that other weird stuff.
Yeah. And as a child who was sexually abused, it may sound bad, but I love to hear that. I love to hear that continuous punishment occurs because what they do to us lasts for a lifetime. I don't want to cry. It's very hard to overcome that. And for them just to dismiss it as a sin is just a sin, it's not. You potentially ruin somebody for life.
That's true.
So, sorry.
No, you are right. You are right. Because I had a dear friend that went through that. And that's why I got put out of Eleanor Roosevelt. Because when she came to me and told me about that, and we grew up together, I went totally on the opposite side. Totally. Because that thing was something special. Because I just left him. And when he was in a coma and everybody, the whole school was out there, it was after school. So I understand that. And that is because I seen some of my father's abuses, that triggers, because, it happens one or two ways. Either that person becomes like that person, or that person goes into the whole different situation. And I was blessed to be on that whole different side of that, because I don't like raising my voice. I don't like hollering and screaming. If I put my hands on my wife, I want them hands to be loving, never physical. And she would even say, oh, no, he doesn't raise his voice. He don't do holler and scream. Even if he's upset, he'll go downstairs to do in the basement is go ahead and he'll turn on Farrakhan and he'll just sit there and just let the world be. That's his peaceful place where he'll think and then he'll come back. It's not going to be any of that. I'm running out the house and you're not going to see me until a day or two. No, we don't do none of that. We do grown men stuff. Yeah. Because the reality is, I ain't no slave. That's slave. That's that stuff that we endure during slavery. You don't beat your woman. No, you don't do none of that. You don't. No, that's just. And then there's events that have taken place in which I flipped out over that. I flipped out over that when I was in the nation early on when we was working in NOI security. And I was working at Parkside Terrace, now Oxon Run. Situation kicked off like that. So, and flipped out. I don't like that stuff. That's just crazy. I don't like child abuse. I don't like that rape stuff. I don't like being around dudes that call women out their names, because I'm like, do you want that or do you want a grown woman? I'm attracted to women. I'm not attracted to this other stuff. I'm not going to call that sister out of her name, because what does that make me? Because she's maybe, even if she's used to hearing that, it's not going to come from my mouth. I'll avoid that whole conversation and say, hey, sister, be blessed. Now I'm famous for that. I'll tell everybody, hey, just be blessed. Yeah. Enjoy your blessing. Yeah. So that's where I'm at on that. I don't like none of that.
And I respect that. Thank you. We need more men with that type of mindset, because there's so many men out here that are just horrible monsters and very good at masking it. Very good at masking it.
Well,
So
you know, it's a
I appreciate you.
Yeah, it's a cowardly thing. You know, a lot of soldiers out there, they don't know how to be soldiers, you know. My change, woo, that was 2009, 2010. And a situation arose. Betrayal. You know, because I was rocking with this brother. And when he was about to get stabbed, I was there, didn't let it go down. When he was about to get down, get caught up in something, didn't let it go down. Soldiered with him. And I thought he was a soldier, but he did something to cross him. Oh. And the advice that was given to me, and this is prison, the advice that was given to me is, bruh, if when you see him and you deal with him on these stairways and he acts like he's tough, then you beat him down, you rape him, and you leave him on the stairs. When I say I lost my humanity and straight savage, that's where I was at. And you let everybody know right then, because they're going to talk about this, and now everybody going to bear witness that you ain't to be bothered with no more. You know, betrayal comes with a price. He didn't say stab him or kill him. He said rape him and leave him there. I listened to that. And he said, on the other side of that is, if he gets apologetic, scared, then you treat him like the bitch that he is. Because you know and he know that you own him. So when I went to that dude chose the latter. And that's the only reason why I'm probably home. Because I was that far gone and that much of a savage at that point, because I had been getting turned down and it was always the same answer, the serious nature of the crime and certain other things. And so I'm like, okay, and I'm looking around me, a lot of brothers are not even thinking about going home to after they did 30 years. I'm on year 18. So I'm looking at possibly doing 12 years, maybe another 17 years without coming home. So like I said, and then being in that savage mind state, that's where I was at. And then, of course, the note was dropped. He dropped the note and I got sent to another side of the yard because Greenville was big. It's three huge units that have 1,000 people apiece. So they sent me from one side all the way to the other. And when I went on that other side, it took me 6 months to get my life together because I was angry from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed. And I mean, hot, hostile, unfriendly, and just crazy. But what happened was I started going to this Kairos ministry, something that I was already a part of. And an opportunity arose where I could do plays. And what happened that way was the simple fact that I was reading something on Charles Dutton, because Charles Dutton went to prison too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Charles Dutton went to prison, and I read something on him, and he started doing plays. And I said, you know what? I like movies. I like this. I like writing. I'm gonna shoot my shot. And so that was my inspiration. He's my inspiration. One day I'll meet him. But that was my inspiration. And so I got into doing plays. And then I started, then I went back to school and got my associate's degree, you know, became a tutor and made sure a lot of brothers graduated. And that was the changing, and did plays and going to college.
That's awesome.
I was turned down 13 or 14 times. serious nature of the crime. The lady that was the parole examiner, and she definitely was not skin folk, told me that me doing plays is nice as far as prison is concerned, and that I would never probably be able to make it as a playwright in the street. Because I would probably never, or it's like slim to none that I would ever go to Broadway. So she tried to put a needle in my brain to kill my vision.
She did. She tried.
She tried. But, you know, I was hard-headed when I was a little guy, and I was hard-headed then. And so that was the process. And they would always make me see her. And it was always me being last. So on the last time I went up for parole, I tricked all of them. I went early in the morning, became first, and went under a guy that was more lenient. And when we talked, he said, "What are you doing?" And I told him, and he knew about the ministry, the Kairos ministry, and he recommended that I go. And from there, 6 months it took for me to get my first answer in regards to them calling my counselor and saying, giving a status report, which was the first time I ever heard of it. And she ever heard of it, and said, "Oh no, Mr. Campbell is doing good. He's still doing the same thing. He's no trouble, blah, blah, blah." And she put a hell of a letter and recommendation in, and I finally made it.
Yay. And how did that feel? What kind of emotions were running through your body, your mind at that point?
I couldn't believe it.
Right.
I couldn't believe it. And then, you know, it was like unheard of, because I was prepared to do 30 years. I was looking, you know, not looking forward to it, but I was building my resistance up, because I said after another 4 years, I'm not going up anymore. Because I bucked one time on going up to see the parole board, because I got tired of hearing the same answer. And people don't understand that unless you're in that situation, because I'm not going to beg you. I'm not going to keep saying this. I'm not going to keep saying the same thing over and over. You already know, you got a case file on me. You know what I have done. I'm not saying that you owe me anything. I took a life, so I understand if my life is set and I'm still there, I understand that. That's just scripture. Life for life, okay. We deal with that. Don't necessarily mean I want to be there. Right. It just means that I understand.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that I'm not going to keep fighting.
Right.
Because I know I have something to offer others. So when we did that, and you know, a lot of people, and that's the other part of it, when you go up for parole, everybody knows because you're on this list. And that's when the clowns come out. Everybody wants to try you, because now you consider, you know, he ain't gonna do nothing. Dude swung on me, and somebody else stopped me because I was gonna throw him over the tier. So it was like, what in the hell? Because he's mad because I'm going up for parole and got a shot and he don't.
Right, right.
And so that's why I'm saying it's so savage that, you know, you lose every part of your humanity, because a lot of times you force to do things and you have to say later, man, wow, really? And why? You know, so it was to be able to get out of that savage situation, still have something of me left. And the fact that I was able to regain some humanity before I came back home, that was just absolutely a blessing. Man, that was tough, because all the markers that I had coming home were gone, because most of my family moved out to Maryland. So no longer were we in Southeast. We was in Maryland, and it was like, okay, cool. I didn't realize how much they had built up Maryland since then, because when I got locked up, that was 92. So me coming home in 2017 is like a whole different sport. Mm-hmm. I remember getting off the train at Union Station, and I said, okay, look for your markers. I remember when they had the movie theater, the AMC movie theater. I remember the bar on the outside of the theater. And I also remember the chocolate factory that they had.
Mm.
Well, that's gone.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering, man, where am I at?
Right.
I'm stuck. And going to one of the Metro cops, I was like, oh, Lord, the first thing I got to do is talk to these people to find out what's going on. Oh, but dude was cool because I had that big dumb orange bag with my stuff on the back. I look like I came straight out of prison. Oh, man.
He was like, oh, okay, he gets it.
Yeah. And so, but he was absolutely cool.
Yeah.
He guided me one way and said, look, man, you got to catch a train this way over here because I was going out in Maryland. And then when I got to the train station out here in Largo area, because where I was staying at, I didn't even know how to use a phone. And so when the dude said, oh man, you don't have a phone, okay, use mine. I said, bro, I don't even know how to use this joint. He was like, wow. He said, welcome home, but bro, woo.
Yeah.
He made the call for me. My folks came and got me. And you know, that was a start. But it was difficult because job-wise out here in Maryland is as an ex-felon, it's challenging because they don't have any programs. So I had to, you know, go to DC Central Kitchen to get started because that can break a brother's spirit, you know, and that was rough. Mm-hmm. That was really rough because an idle mind is a devil workshop. No matter how well you do, it's the those first couple of months. That's pivotal.
It is. It is. And so what type of supports did your family or friends provide that helped you to reacclimate?
My mother passed while I was away. My pops got himself together. He's a pastor now. Wow. So we became cool.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, he made a transition,
yeah.
You know, years back. So we became cool as I was in prison. And after my mother passed, we began talking and, you know, getting stuff together. I understood more.
Yeah.
You know, it's like they say when you're a child, you know, you speak as a child, you understand as a child, you thought as a child, but when you became a man, you put childish things away.
Yeah.
That was my moment. You know, we became understanding and became cool. And that was support there. My aunts, even though all of them are in their 80s, all of them gave me support, especially my aunt Dee and Aunt Shirley. They were super cool. They gave me support. And so when I came home, my cousins, because everybody was mad at me because I didn't have no reason to go to prison. I just chose to. That they were like, here's some clothes, here's your computer, here's some money. I mean, they came in force. So that part of the transition was awesome. That part was totally awesome. So I'm forever grateful for them. Through the Kairos program, they did a play they did one of my plays, and I did not know. And when they invited me to the church to see the play, we ran it for 3 days. And it was at full capacity where they were at. And I was like, wow. And they had me speak at the end of it. So
that's awesome. I did see that video.
Yeah.
I did watch that.
At least you know I know how to write.
You are a phenomenal playwright, and I just can't wait for your work to just blow up and for you to be a household name, you know, and your works be just broadcast all over the world. You know, I know that's coming. I know that's coming.
We're working. Got to keep the faith. Got plenty of that. So.
Yep. Yep. What advice or guidance would you offer up to anybody trying to get back into society, trying to find their way, trying to get support, trying to find their purpose, who may be dealing with psychological long-term effects from being incarcerated? What's your advice for people who are struggling?
If you don't have faith in anything else, have faith in yourself. You know, read, write, Do the things you need to do to start, because everything takes time. Nothing is an overnight situation unless you're just awesomely blessed like that. But that's rare. Fight for you. Fight to exist. Fight to live. Because a lot of us don't. And we're accepting of the, as they say, the cards that we're dealt. And instead of folding the hand and get another set of cards, we're too accepting. Because there's a lot of excuses that come, that we receive. Recently, when I was at work, one of the brothers was talking to some of the other younger brothers, and he did a lot of time. He did like 23, 24 years. His conversation on was what bullet fits what gun. And it was like, really? You did all this time and you're recklessly close to getting either killed or coming back. And for what? You know, we got to want to live. You know, we got to see things and chase them, you know, in the positive. It's not about, you know, the first thing we need is a system. It's not about that. Or a sister might say, well, she needs this. No, you need you. Get around some resources. You know, if it's the mosque, cool. If it's the church, cool. Get around people that can help you. Get around people that know more than you.
Yes.
You know, be around people that are smarter than you. There's nothing wrong with that. Right. Nothing. Let them jokers go that you used to know. Because this might be 3 people from my past, from my high school days that I deal with. I done went to 3 different high schools. But there's only 3 people. One is a DC cop. One is a high school basketball coach in the area. And one is a barber that I played high school ball with. That's it. Because a lot of the other people that I know, either dead or still doing the things that we used to do way back when. And I have no interest in that. You know, there's some things that that I'm going to get. You know, I want a fresh Denali. You know, fresh Yukon Denali. I want that.
And you're going to get that.
No question.
No question.
And the house that I want has a deck off the master suite. You know, the house is like 3,000 square feet above ground and another something downstairs.
Okay.
Got to have that.
You
know, got to have that. You know, I want to be able to wear sweatsuits every day. I mean, there's things that I desire, and just be able to write, to work out, to write, and, you know, live that life. Because I done gave them people 26 years. I owe myself 26 years. Yes. You know, I want to go into the prisons and speak to the brothers and sisters, you know, and say, hey, if I can do it, I know you can. But you just have to have faith. You got to understand your purpose. You got to understand the difference between a dream and a vision. You know, understand the difference between your talents and your gifts. So I'm more on that level. And, you know, that's what I would go into. You know, how do we relate? You know, so many of us are so rough and tumble, and that's not really our heart. But even if we are rough and tumble, I would say listen to DMX Prayer, the first one. Listen to some of the gospel songs he had that they never called gospel. You know, I'm on that, you know, and so I can survive off of that. And then, as you already know, I keep good people around me. That's mandatory. And everybody that I keep around me, they're on a whole different wavelength and plan. They have visions and they have this, and they say, hey, Alexander, blah. And I might say, hey, this is what's going on. Keep people abreast, because you want those people, because you grow in a team. And that's how I look at all of us. We're part of the same team. And once we accomplish that, the small things, once I do my part, then that team comes together and I can say, hey, I told you, this is what I need from you. This is what I need from you. You know, if I eat, we all eat. That is all, you know, I've always said that.
You have.
And you know, and so with that, I know. So I keep everybody around me that I know that are good people. You know, now that other stuff, now, because that's just foolishness, and not everybody has what you want in their heart.
Right.
You know, I already know that you have some challenges, you know, because you're doing wonderfully well getting started in your program. You know, you're doing this, and that's awesome. And so I know that there's opposition. Why is she doing that? Because she can.
Because
You
I
know,
can. Thank
you
you.
know,
Thank you,
because she
Cameron.
can. You
Yeah.
know, she's doing her thing. She living her vision. This is not a dream. This is not something that we're gonna try today and give up tomorrow. It's none of that. And this is what's so awesome, because that inspires me as well. Love this. So, you know, and that's what it's about, having people around you to be able to encourage, to be encouraged,
Yeah.
and to keep moving forward and marching forward. And that's what brothers and sisters that are in those spaces got to understand. You know,
Yes.
put that stuff in your head. What's going to make your life better?
Yes.
Leave all that foolishness alone. What's going to make your life better? And, you know, going in search of love, going in search of happiness, you know, having a peace of mind. You know, it's funny because I said, man, where I want to live, I want to see deer, I want to see squirrels, I want raccoons to rattle the garbage cans. You know, I done did the prison thing where the skunks fought the cats and then they gassed the whole building. So you smelling the skunk for an hour. Oh my God, I done did all that. Now it's time to live otherwise.
No.
Ain't nothing like at 12 o'clock at night, you have the window open, and then you smell something later. Oh man, really?
Yeah, that skunk, ugh, skunk, ooh.
Yeah,
But you know, I really do hope that, well, I know you will get to the point where you're able to go and speak to these men and women in prison, because you know it's a system. You know that they've created a system to get us there. Then while we're there, they do more damage. It's all a system. And then when we come out, it's a system where, you know, people can't thrive. It's not designed for us to thrive in any scope of our lives, for certain demographics of Black people. There are some of us who did not grow up in those ways, but there's systemic oppression in every aspect of our lives, whether we want to admit it, whether we realize it or not. When you said that the guy told you to beat him and rape him, that is an extension of what used to happen to us in slavery. That's right. Buck breaking. Mm-hmm. So for him to feel like that's some form of power or anything, and not realizing how deeply rooted in insanity that is, and how that has been designed and used for centuries to weaken our men, it just goes to show how much damage has been done and how much work needs to be done. And I do pray that you have the opportunity to reach the masses and show them a different way, and show them that there is a different life that is possible to achieve. And I'm just like, every time I talk to like somebody, I'm just like, how do you overcome? Because I'm not to say that I'm weak or anything like that, but I'm just in awe, because I met you and the strength and the dignity that you held yourself with was just so like you demanded respect. You demanded respect. You're admirable in everything that you're doing. You're talented, very intelligent. And it's like you're talking about somebody else, as far as I'm concerned. You're not that person anymore.
But we retired that dude. You know, we keep him in a box. We keep him locked away. And thank you. It's, you know, again, being around awesome people frees you. If you know what I mean, being around other people that you admire, that you respect, you know, that respects you, that brings something up out of you, you know, because I recognize that. You know, I recognize people that try to help me without saying, okay, you owe this to me, because some of us are lost on, you owe something to me. And I understand, don't nobody owe you nothing. You're a grown man.
This has been amazing. I am just even in more awe of you now. Feel like I've gotten to know you a little bit more. And I just want to say ultimately, thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with me today and telling us your story. And I pray that it touches the hearts and minds of those who are struggling, and that you can continue to be a source of light for those who need it, and that your endeavors will come to fruition, and that you will touch the masses and change lives, as I know you will.
Thank you for the golden, this is a golden opportunity. So I'm so psyched. You know, I'm so hyped up. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to when I do certain things and you have me back where I can.
Yes.